Hi everyone, so as I'm sure you can tell from the title of the video, today we're talking about tips for any teenagers just like me that are interested in reaching financial freedom at a young age or preparing ourselves for the future in terms of having money and being financially free. So as it is well and good if I'm here talking about my tips, but along with this I'm also going to have Ray talking today and joining me, giving some of his tips which he's going to tell which he would wish he had when he was younger. So hopefully you all enjoyed the video, but I'm going to pass it over to Ray now to quickly introduce himself.
G'day Adam, thanks so much for having me on the channel, mate. So my name's Ray Corcoran. I've got a channel titled just by my name, Ray Corcoran Personal Finance. So we do videos on making money, investing money and saving money.
And today Ray and I are going to be giving some tips, as I mentioned. So Ray is going to be giving 5 tips for all of us teenagers, and I'm going to be giving 3 since Ray took a lot of the great tips out there, and I don't think that I want to give you guys any rubbish tips just for giving you tips. And I'm also going to be reflecting on Ray's tips, and I don't want this video to be incredibly large. So without further ado, Ray, take it away with tip number 1 since you're the guest on the channel right now, and I should let you go first.
The first tip is all around upskilling yourself. So what you get paid for is typically related to what skills you have, and more importantly, what commercially valuable skills that you have. So if you don't have any skills, it's going to be very, very hard to justify paying you a lot of money in your job or for you to command a high rate in your business. You know, for me, my career, one thing that I found that helped me get paid quite well in my career now is all related to the stuff that I learned when I was in my teens and when I was in my 20s. And what you want to focus on is making sure that you're developing those skills. And you know, while a lot of people say invest in yourself, and it may sound corny, it's extremely true. And it's very, very important that you build up a strong base of skills. And the types of skills I'd recommend building are what I would call evergreen skills. So these are skills that are useful almost throughout your whole career, regardless of what changes. So examples of evergreen skills would be things like learning how to do sales, learning marketing, learning things like communication skills, learning how to speak in front of large groups, learning stuff like networking, all these different skills, you know, stuff like leadership as well. All these different skills are crucial and will be, you know, the kinds of things that will help you build your net worth a lot faster long term. And the good thing is with the internet and everything we have now is you can learn almost all of these skills for free online, you know, without having to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. And you know, for me personally, I've invested, you know, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in my education over the last 15 years or so. But you don't even have to do that these days. There's so many good free courses, you know, for marketing. Google has Google Skillshare, and there's all these different courses. Facebook has the Facebook Blueprint training. If you don't know how to do Facebook ads, for example, there's great stuff on YouTube, of course. So, you know, there's no excuse for not being able to learn these skills. If you have an internet connection, you have everything you need to learn some serious skills that could pay you for the rest of your career.
Thanks for that, Ray. I do agree with this tip 100%. I think that building skills is something that I'm trying to do and something I'd encourage any teenager to also do with me. I think there are so many skills out there that are going to be super valuable for the future, and like Ray stated, that we can learn them all pretty much for free today with the power of the internet, particularly YouTube, which is a great tool for learning. Now, I just thought I'd quickly add it in here, but one skill that I really do find interesting, one that I'm trying to learn myself, and one I would encourage most teenagers to learn, is some form of sales skills or techniques, different parts of sales in general. Because if you're able to sell, it doesn't have to necessarily be a product. You could be selling yourself. You could be selling a service. You could be selling an idea, which always you're going to need to do. It's almost inevitable that all of us are going to need to sell something one day. Even if you're applying for a job, technically you're selling yourself to the employer, telling them what value you can bring. And by knowing these tips on how to talk confidently, how to make people understand that you're giving something to them that they want, rather than they're doing something for you, there are all these aspects of sales that I think are incredibly important. So learning sales skills is, in my opinion, one of the skills that all of us should be trying to learn. It's something I've read about, something I've been trying, practicing and learning, and it's something I truly do believe is important for my future. But going into my first tip now is actually that I believe that we should all get jobs. I've got a job, and I do encourage any teenagers to also get a job or apply, try and find a job for yourself. And I understand a lot of us don't need the money. Some of us don't have to really spend money, some of us are given allowances and we don't exactly need a job for money, but that is, in my opinion, one of the most important things to do as a teenager. I think that along with the money, of course, which is great, that's not what the important part is. Even if you got plenty of money elsewhere, let's say from a side hustle, let's say from a business, or you sell something at school, that's fine, but having a job will help you in the long run. Along with learning skills from the job, it'll also provide you with experience, which, even though it's experience and you'll be able to do something in the future with it, it's more the fact that you'll be able to claim you've worked. There are a lot of people I know that have never had a job through their teenage years, and then they turn 18, 19, they're at uni, they've got a car, and they don't know how they're going to be making enough money to put fuel in the tank because they can't find a job. It's really difficult to get employed once you're 18, 19, 20 if you don't have any prior experience. It's almost logical that an employer is not going to look and compare you and someone that does have experience and pick you over the person that does have experience, since they can pay you essentially the same amount of money. And especially with places like McDonald's, I know that once you get in, or maybe Woolworths, different stores like this, supermarkets, retail stores, once you're in, even at 17, 16, then they'll most likely keep you once you're an adult. It's more just trying to find a job when you're 18 or 19 is incredibly difficult unless you've also had work beforehand. Now, contrasting to the first person I know which didn't have a job through his teenage years and now he's struggling, I also know a girl that had a job since she was incredibly young. And when I'm saying young, maybe 15, when she could start working, and this was at McDonald's. And now she's in her 20s, she's still working there today, and she's actually one of the managers of the franchise she works at. So that just goes to show that it is worth getting that experience, even just as a claim, because also if she wanted to find another job, I'm sure she could. I've got a girl working with me at the moment and she's got 3 part-time jobs. She's 18, she's in uni, and she's going great. But if she didn't have any of this work while she was a teenager, it wouldn't really be likely that she would have these 3 jobs. So that's my first tip, that I believe you should get a job even if you don't need it for the money. So now let's go into Ray's second tip for the video.
The second tip I have is educating yourself on personal finance. So this is kind of an obvious one, but you got to understand that if you're a teenager or you're in your early 20s, for example, or you're just a younger person or just new to personal finance, you need to start with reading some of the, I guess I would say, the classic books in personal finance and some of the more popular books in personal finance, just so you can start to understand, like, how does this all work and what are all the different main pieces of personal finance. So great books would include, some people like Rich Dad Poor Dad. There's stuff like The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich. There's a whole bunch of different books. Barefoot Investor is a good newer one. And all these books will start to give you a bit of a foundation on what's what in personal finance. And you don't need to come from a wealthy background. You don't need to be particularly smart. You basically just need to have a desire to want to improve your personal finances. There's so much great content out there. As I said before, YouTube is a great place to learn a lot of this stuff. I do videos on it all the time in terms of making money, investing money, and saving money. And there's so much stuff out there for free. So you want to start to arm yourself with information so you can start to learn how this all works and how to get started.
So now this is such a simple thing to say, and it's something we hear over and over, but it's incredibly true. And although just reading and just learning isn't going to make you money, by making a lot of money, if you don't have that knowledge of how to manage it, how to use it properly, invest it, save it, you're going to struggle and it's not really going to create wealth. You do need both, and I think that this is something that's commonly ignored or not even cared about because a lot of us don't really think about it. But learners are earners at the end of the day. I try and read, as you can see there, I've got a bookshelf. I've got a ton of books and I do try and read a lot of them because I do want to learn about different tips, particularly with finance. Now, not everyone loves reading. I would still recommend that all of us try and read because reading is a great way to learn. But for those of us that don't like to read, maybe we don't have the money, you can always just watch YouTube videos. Now, I don't want to plug my own channel here, but I would really recommend you go watch Ray's channel. He's got so many great finance tips. He's been through a lot. It's proper, credible stuff that he's talking about, and I'd really recommend it for anyone here that wants to learn all things finance. He's very down to earth, He tells things in a very simplistic manner, and I do enjoy his very high quality videos. So go check out Ray's channel. I'll put the link to his channel in the description below. And so my second tip is that we should all try and start a side hustle. This may not make a ton of money, but it's worth doing. If you've got time, which a lot of us do, I understand a lot of us have things to do outside of school, but if you've got any time, I really do recommend, on top of having a job, try start a side hustle. I've started many, some of them have done absolutely nothing, some of them have actually generated decent cash flow. They're all worth doing. Just find one that you're interested in, something maybe you're good at or you're very keen to learn, and give it a shot. For me in particular, something I did was dropshipping. Now I know dropshipping isn't something particularly loved by everyone. Sometimes it's looked at as something not even worth your time. It's a scam. It's just a get-rich-quick scheme, but it was something I tried. And during the COVID-19 pandemic early days, everyone was buying things through websites, e-commerce, eBay, and money was starting to come in for me. It's made me now quite a bit of money, particularly because of COVID, but by listing different items that I thought would be good. I listed a lot of watering cans, containers, different home essentials. I did generate some money. But on top of the money that this earned me and generated, there were also some other things that I got from doing a side hustle. Now I still have side hustles today that I'm learning from, but doing dropshipping was one of the earliest side hustles I ever did. And something I learned along the way was how to deal with customers when they're unhappy. Maybe they want a refund, maybe they're unhappy with the product, maybe the shipment was delayed. I had to figure out so many little things. I had to figure out how I would need to advertise the products, and those are things that I don't think I would have been able to learn if I wasn't getting this hands-on experience. So do some sort of side hustle, no matter how small or large, simply even just to learn. By having a YouTube channel, although I'm not generating any cash flow at the moment, I'm learning quite a bit along the way. I'm learning how to share things, how to talk properly, how to record, how to edit, all these different aspects that you wouldn't really be able to learn elsewhere. And by learning these small skills like talking, or if you go to mow lawns, you'll figure out how to knock on people's doors, how to present yourself. By learning all these small skills, you will get further in life, in my opinion. And if you can make some money on top of it, why not? It's always great to have a few extra dollars in your pocket, and you can put them to good use. So next, let's go into Ray's next tip.
The third tip is consistency is more important than home runs when you're young. So what I mean by this is that when you're young, you've got plenty of time ahead of you to fix mistakes and all that sort of stuff, and you've just generally got plenty of time. And you don't really need to, a lot of people want to think about get rich quick or trying to make, $1 million in a year or that sort of stuff. And while that stuff is possible and people do it, what I'd recommend is for most people, just being consistent is more important. One thing, I guess, my regrets is just not starting all this personal finance stuff sooner. I would have been way better off now if I just started sooner. And that doesn't mean you don't have fun when you're young, but it means that you can start early on putting away a little bit of money. Have fun with the majority of it, but just take a little portion of it and get into the habit. The habit is more important than what stock to pick and all that sort of stuff. A lot of that detail stuff you'll learn over time, but start to build the habit of taking whatever comes in, even if it's a very small amount, putting it away, and just get into that repeatable sort of process where from 15 or 16 or 17 or whenever you start working, every year you've been putting away some, and eventually over time that will compound quite dramatically. Even if you never even make a really high salary at any point over the next 10, 15 years, just the fact that you start putting some away, that will naturally compound to a large amount of money. One of the things, I think it was Warren Buffett said, was the concept of never losing money. Now that sounds obvious to most people on the surface, but what I feel that he meant by that is that don't risk all your chips. A lot of people, especially younger people at the moment, people in their teens and 20s and stuff, even people in their 30s, they see stuff like crypto, which I personally own, but a lot of these people are trying to gamble basically their life savings or all their money on really risky assets. And one of the things you need to focus on is just don't risk all your chips on the one thing early on. Start with safe stuff. I normally say to people, once you've saved up your cash buffer, start to make some safer investments. You might not triple your money in 5 minutes like crypto, but it's much more reliable, and long term you have a much higher chance of building up a lot of money with a lot less risk.
Now this is something I actually think a lot of us will be glad to hear in a way, and at least try and take it in a positive manner. Really, if you think about it, Ray's saying that he wishes he started as a teenager, and if we're watching this video right now, that means that we are thinking about this as a teenager and we can get this head start. We've got an opportunity and Ray's telling us exactly what to do with it. He's telling us play it relatively safe, go slow and steady, and just have consistency, and it'll be worth it in the long run. We've got plenty of time, we don't need to get rich quick, we don't need to hit a home run as Ray said. So this is a tip I really do think is important, and honestly, in my opinion, if you're going to take any tip from the video, I would say that this is the one to take because it can be used in so many aspects rather than just singular things. This is very broad in terms of finance as a teenager. So I'd say that this is the one tip really that is incredible and something that we really should take on board. So thanks for that tip, Ray. I really did like that. So let's hear your fourth tip.
The fourth thing is to get used to setting aside a little bit of money every single week, regardless of your pay, like I kind of alluded to before. Get into the habit of doing that early. As soon as you start to realize that 100% of your pay isn't 100% of your pay, the better. So whatever comes in, it might be 10%, it might be 5%, it might be 20 or 30%, but whatever comes in, you pay yourself first. You may have heard of that concept. Take a chunk out, save it. Take a chunk out, save it. Once you've built up your cash buffer of say 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which for most young people is not that much to be honest, you can get started into investing and you can start considering stuff like ETFs, and you may potentially even saving up for your first rental property potentially. But the point is that you get used to the habit of whatever comes in, you take a chunk, put it aside and live off the rest. That habit alone will make you rich long term, like without question. So getting that habit is one of the hardest things for people to do. If you can master that, everything else will sort of trickle off that.
So now this is a tip, like a lot of Ray's, that I think is incredibly important yet still ignored by most of us, and it's something a lot of us don't think about and really apply in our life, but it's quite important. Now, we don't have any debts, most likely, any expenses such as bills to pay as a teenager. So we can either use that as an opportunity to buy whatever we want. We can buy shoes, we can buy clothes, we can buy the latest phone, or we can use it as an opportunity to actually keep some money aside for us, save some money, do something with the money that'll benefit us financially. So I do think that this is an important tip and we really shouldn't overlook it because it's something that we can really do that a lot of adults maybe can't do. At the end of the day, if you've got bills to pay, you've got bills to pay. Sometimes you can't save money, sometimes you can't invest money, sometimes you can't do all these wonderful things to benefit your own life that we as teenagers, if we have any sort of money coming in, try and put some aside, as Ray said, because it can really go a long way depending on what you do with it. So now going into my next tip, this is something a little bit strange, something a little bit painful and a little bit awkward to do, but this is simply just to talk to people that have done what you want to do. So now hear me out, this is something a little bit awkward to do, but if you go to somebody that's achieved something you want to achieve, whether that's a career pathway that you're interested in, or maybe they've made a lot of money, maybe they've done something with their life that you really want to achieve, ask them how they did it. Ask them why they did it. Because you can really learn years worth of knowledge in about an hour or two, depending on what they do, what they write for you, what they say. There's a lot to be learned that can really help benefit your life and save you months worth of experience. Now this is something that I'm telling you because I've done this myself. It's something that I reflect on and something I truly think, now I say truly a lot, but it's something that I think really has affected me. I've asked real estate agents, I've asked a branch operator at a real estate agency, I've talked to a developer of property, he owned the development company, how he did it, why he did it, and where the entry point would be. I've asked a gym owner what his journey was like, what were the obstacles. I've asked my own employer different things about employment and why she would hire someone over someone else. That way I've got knowledge of how to write a resume. And I think by doing all of this, there's a lot that I've learned that otherwise would take me a long time to learn. And I think why not ask somebody if they've done work to learn all of that, they've spent months or years learning, that they can tell you in a few minutes or hours. Really, it would be worth learning from. And hear me out, at the end of the day, I do think that most people are going to feel honored to almost tell you, because they're going to feel like they've made a journey, they're going to want to share it, and you're interested to hear it. You want to be like them and learn from them. So really do just try and ask someone. I don't think they're going to get annoyed. I've asked people before and they've kind of given me a bit of a cold shoulder. They've said, yeah, I'm a little bit busy, and they've never gotten back to me. It's not a big deal at the end of the day, because I've also had plenty of people that have said they will talk to me, and I've met up with them, I've written letters to them, and they've written letters back, they've called me. There's a lot that I've learned along the way simply just by asking. So try and take that step forward and ask. Having Ray on this channel is almost an example of this, because Ray is giving advice that I wouldn't be able to give otherwise, because he's gone a lot further into the future than I have. I'm still only 17, he's older than I am, and he's been through his teenage years. He's able to tell us some things that we would have to learn the hard way otherwise. So having Ray on this channel is incredibly helpful for this video, because he can give advice that I wouldn't be able to give. So that's my tip, which is simply just to ask and listen to what people have to say, because you can't think that you know everything, because there are people that have made it to where you want to be. A great example of this is the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now this is a great book. This is the first financial freedom book I read, and Ray mentioned this before. It's one of the most well-known, famous books about financial literacy, freedom, learning to be an entrepreneur, how to make money, and I do really recommend it for anyone that's interested. But in this book, Robert Kiyosaki, the author, talks about how when he was young, he asked and learnt from his rich dad, which was his best friend's father. And his best friend's father, which was his rich dad, owned businesses, investments, and he was what Robert wanted to be. So by asking him and learning from him, this rich dad taught him all the things along the way that would be incredibly difficult to learn by himself. So now let's go into Ray's fifth and final tip for the whole video. So take it away, Ray.
The fifth thing is the importance of running your own race. So as you go throughout your life, there's going to be all sorts of people around you that are doing better than you and worse than you and all that sort of stuff. And it can be hard, especially in this sort of social media era, where you look at what other people are doing and it seems like they're doing way, way better than you. And you look back at what you're doing and it might not feel like it's good enough, or you're not going at a fast enough pace. It's really, really important to manage your emotions during this time. Your emotions are going to be going up and down throughout this whole journey, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it's important just to focus on working on your own stuff. A lot of people spend, another Warren Buffett quote is, a lot of people spend more time looking at the scoreboard than actually playing the game. And this is what a lot of people do with social media. They look at what everybody else is doing with their, it could be growing their YouTube channel, or they could look at other people in terms of their job, or their business is thriving, or it seems like they're going to really fancy places, or they just bought this nice car, or whatever it is. They spend all their time watching somebody else rather than building their own little empire. And it's really important that you stay focused on building your own stuff, building your own skill set, learning more about different investments, learning, increasing your savings rate, increasing your income, focus on playing your own game. It's like that quote, winners focus on winners and losers focus on winners. You want to make sure that all your attention and effort, in this very highly distracting world that we live in with all social media, that you focus on running your own race and improving your situation. Whether someone else gets rich that it has no effect on your, performance, as long as you don't let it. It has nothing. Them getting rich has nothing to do with whether you can get rich or not. So it's really important to focus on what you're doing and building your own empire. And I did a post on my Instagram about this, about the concept of creation versus consumption. And people that make money, you get paid when you create stuff. You don't make money when you're consuming other stuff. And education and learning is important, but you want to make sure that you're spending a lot of your time making stuff, building stuff. It's building your own companies or putting out more content or whatever it is, building relationships. You need to focus on building your own empire and not spend so much time looking at what other people are doing. And if you follow those tips, you'll be much, much better off in the long run.
Now this is something I've actually struggled with in the past before, and I know a lot of my friends that are teenagers have also really struggled with this. We're constantly on Instagram, we're constantly on Facebook, Snapchat, and we're seeing all these people doing all these wonderful things, and it can sometimes make us get distracted from our own life. And at the end of the day, if you just focus on yourself, you don't need to be posting about it. If you just focus on building yourself, as Ray said, it goes a lot further than worrying about what other people are doing. Because a lot of the time, if people are doing different things that they're showing on Instagram, or that they're even just showing in person, they may kind of just be all for show rather than actually doing anything. So really focus on yourself, as Ray said. This is a very important tip, and I do think that this is something a lot of us should try to take on board. So thanks for that, Ray. I'll give it back to you just before we wrap up the video. So once again, take it away, Ray.
So thanks for having me on, Adam. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if you want to check out any of my other videos, just search, you can find me on Instagram at Ray Corc, RayCorc, or you can find me on YouTube. Just type in my name, Ray Corcoran, Corcoran. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Not a problem at all, Ray. I've loved having you on the channel, and I'd love to have you again. I really do appreciate that you are so proactive, easy to work with, and that you agreed to help me with this video, because you've added such a great element that I otherwise wouldn't really be able to have. So thank you, Ray. And hopefully the viewers have learned something, which I'm sure they have, from both of us. And make sure, if you're a viewer watching this right now and you've made it to the end, go and subscribe to both Ray's channel and mine if you want to learn all things finance from both of us. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed or you got something educational, something entertaining from this video, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.